Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Sal Vetri Show. It's great to have you here, and today what we're going to be doing is taking a look and kind of breaking down this wild card weekend in the NFL, right? This playoffs has started. I've been traveling a little bit, been road tripping back from Texas, was there in Austin with my girlfriend for New Year's. Now we're in a hotel, and I'm doing this while she gets a little workout in, so I just wanted to bring this to you guys. Take a look, right? We got a 4-game slate on Saturday. We got a 4-game slate goes into Sunday. Some different time games, mid-afternoon and late at night. So we're going to get a nice little slate here. We got not the Millie Maker, but we got a $250K prize, and we got some showdown slates, tons of fun stuff. I put 2 videos out earlier in the week about strategy, the one specific to the playoffs, 5 tips. Another thing I'd like to add to that, actually, that I didn't get on there, was utilizing late swap, right? So before we break into this, utilizing late swap is huge, right? On 4-game slates, especially when there's games so far apart, meaning literally the next day, you can kind of see where you stand and really see how you can hedge yourself if you're in the lead to kind of take on the best options, the lowest risk, so to say. Or if you're in a little bit behind and you know you can't play some of these chalkier guys going into that slate, or as many chalky guys as you like, you take on a little more risk, and you have a whole extra day to kind of analyze that. So that's why I think kind of like these playoffs are a huge, in the regular season when you do the Thursday to Monday slates, you have multiple days, so you could really take advantage of that, and it's just a huge advantage for some of us people, like you guys and girls watching this, listening to this on the audio version. It's just a big advantage, right? Because you're putting extra time into it, and you're definitely doing things, changing players in and out that other people aren't going to be doing, and the majority of people aren't going to be doing, because the majority of people that play this, especially during playoffs, are just public people throwing the money in. Their standard leagues have ended, regular season is over, and they're itching for more fantasy, right? And this is when they start to get involved a little bit more into DFS. You guys have been here. So for our audio listeners, welcome, and for you viewers that have tuned in, thank you. So audio, if you listen to this on audio, thank you. The podcast is out. If you haven't, check it out. It's a little bit easier maybe for some of you guys traveling. I've gotten some requests, so I've just been stripping the audio from these videos, putting it into the podcast version, trying to work on that a little bit more. For the viewers, if you're new here, my name's Sal. Welcome. We're going to get into this video. I appreciate it. If you could hit that subscribe button. We've been going pretty good now. We're almost at 1,200 subscribers. Been growing a ton. I'd like to get to 1,500 by the end of this week. So hit that subscribe button. And as a little incentive to hit the subscribe button, if you drop which running back you think will score the most points that's not named Ezekiel Elliott. So which running back on this 4-game slate will score the most points not named Ezekiel Elliott. This weekend, you have to be a subscriber and like the video. You'll be entered into a $15 PayPal or Venmo, whatever it is, Draftkings ticket into this weekend. So let me know, not named Ezekiel Elliott, most Draftkings points. Makes it a little bit more challenging since Zeke might be the chalk in that situation. Same for the audio, guys. You go ahead, download the podcast, head over to this YouTube channel and just comment that below. Subscribe, and yeah, we can get on with it. Our draft dashboard winner, which is a tool that we've been using all season long. If you've been following me, we're gonna have a lifetime winner for that 1,000 subscriber. It's gonna be in the description of the YouTube video and also in the show notes, so you can all see that on the podcast. But let's get into it, right? That's enough for that. Let's get down into this show. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. And yeah, so we got a 4-game slate. This is me taking my first look at it, really, but I've been bouncing around in the Facebook group with some of the guys and girls in there, getting some advice since I've been traveling, driving a ton the past couple of days, trying to see where the slate's at, where everybody's mindsets are at. So it's been great. Make sure you check down the description below. You can get into that Facebook group as well as a Discord that's going to be coming soon. So yeah, I mean, on this slate, we got Deshaun Watson as the highest priced quarterback at $6,700. I think that's fair, him being the highest price there, right with Andrew Luck. And if we do look at Deshaun Watson, his game logs as of late, they've been getting back to what we're used to out of Deshaun Watson, right? A floor of around 20 DraftKings points. His ceiling that we know can be upwards of 40 points like he did 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia. And now he gets a pretty nice matchup at home against the Colts, who just got into the playoffs like we saw on Monday night or on Sunday Night Football, that last game of the season, regular season that is. And yeah, I mean, good situation here. This is by far the game that people are going to want to target, this Colts and Titans, or this Colts and Texans game. It's the first game on the slate, and it's just set up to be the best overall in terms of points. Both have good offenses in a good condition down in Houston, where we have some other games on this slate that are going to be in Baltimore in the cold, Chicago in the cold, maybe slower tracks. So yeah, it's just setting up as this is the game you want to target based on the total, based on the players that are in this game, based on the game stacks that you can do in this situation. And it's something that I'm definitely going to be looking into targeting as well. So we can see we have Luck and Watson, and it's rightfully so. They're the 2 highest priced quarterbacks on this slate. If we go and look at Andrew Luck, he's just been doing it all year long. He's had maybe 1 or 2 down games, but other than that, he's throwing multiple touchdown passes, 2 or more, in basically every other game. His QBR, his ratings are always above, it seems, 90 this year. He's comeback player of the year for sure. He should be top 5 MVP, if not higher, top 3 possibly MVP candidate on this season. He's just been absolutely crushing it. He gets his team into the playoffs and now has a chance to kind of do it all. And do we want to roster him in DFS when we have a guy like Watson only 300 more, and we have some guys that are valuable below him, right? I mean, you look right below him at quarterback. You have Mitch Trubisky at home going up against the Eagles, who have been so giving, right? Their secondary's been the story the whole second half of the season. For fantasy, just nobody out there that can really defend anybody. Mitch Trubisky has been having trouble as of late. Now he gets a home game, though, to get right in the playoffs. He's going to have a decent matchup, but do I want to put him out there against that Eagles front 4, front 7 even? I am not positive that I really want to go that route, but Mitch Trubisky is probably the guy on this slate at his price point, and he is the last game on the slate, so you can kind of hammer it home with him on that Sunday afternoon game, that he can win a tournament, right? We've seen his over 30 points multiple times, and it's just a situation that you want to be in, especially because he has a good matchup and he's at home. So Mitch Trubisky is definitely interesting. All these guys priced pretty similarly, but we get all the way down and we look at some of these guys on the bottom part. We can highlight over Phillip Rivers in a very bad matchup. We saw Baltimore kind of eat him alive a couple weeks ago, right? We see in his game logs, if we're looking at them on DraftKings, 2 weeks back he had 5 points. And I mean, that's not to say it's going to repeat, but basically same situation, right? He's going into Baltimore now, and not a great situation at all for Phillip Rivers and these Chargers. Too bad the Chiefs have been so great, because the Chargers really deserve a bye in this situation. They've been playing great all year. I don't think I want to touch Phillip Rivers. I don't even think he's a great tournament play. I mean, if you've watched the channel, you know that I like to be contrarian. That's not the spot I want to be contrarian against, like the number 1 overall defense. A situation where there's not really any guys I feel comfortable throwing out there on the Chargers, and really vice versa. I mean, we have Lamar Jackson at 5,800 right below Rivers. Got into the end zone twice, had basically his ceiling game in terms of being able to rush 20 times again, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, and basically doing what he's been doing all season in the air, going over 150 yards but not really breaking 200 and not doing much in the passing game. But do I want to throw him out there, who he did have a decent game? I mean, in terms of Lamar Jackson not being able to throw the ball, 16 points against the Chargers in that showdown slate game. But do I want to really touch him? I don't think so, right? In this situation, if I'm entering 10 lineups, maybe I have 20, 30% Lamar Jackson. It's just these shorter slates, I want to take what's given to me, right? So if we want to talk game strategy for a second, I want to take what is given to me and what I feel comfortable about. And that's this game right here, Indianapolis and Houston. And that's going to be the chalk, right? But I do like Mitch Trubisky a little bit. We go down, we're really cheap. And I mean cheap meaning they're only really separated by $1,000, the quarterbacks on the slate. Not really sure I want to touch Dak, because yes, Dak had a good week last week. Yes, Blake Jarwin had a good week last week. Everybody's going to be hyped up about him. But Zeke didn't play, right? Let's not mistake that. Zeke didn't play, so Jarwin got more targets than he ever would. There was more touchdowns to go around for the whole team. Just less touches on the ground, which meant the game lasted a little bit longer. So don't look too far into that. Yes, Dak played great. Yeah, he gets home against Seattle, which hasn't been a great defense on the road all season. Not sure I want to touch it, but I think a lot of people are going to gravitate there based on what he did last week, based on seeing that he's his opponent's rank is 29th on DraftKings. When you see that little green light up, it attracts a lot of people since he's the only player. And he's cheap, right? If you go back to Nick Foles, now Nick Foles is not a guy I want to touch this week, right? He came down a little bit last week. He still had a decent game last week, but nowhere near as good as the week before when he went for 36 DraftKings points against Houston. Now he's going on the road into Chicago. Chicago, we know, gets great pass rush. This is the time that Khalil Mack's going to put his head down and just go after Foles in a cold game situation, which Foles is used to in Philadelphia, but on the road in a hostile environment. Not sure I want to target anybody in this game. I mentioned in my strategy video, so check it out if you haven't. Try and target these games where you know the weather. I'm not a really big believer in weather in terms of like the wind's going to ruin the whole game. The stadium blocks out most of it. I've said this before. And not only does it block out most of it, it's not 3 hours straight of wind, right? And how many times are you throwing deep in the game? You're not throwing 3 hours straight deep, so it's not going to affect much of the game at all. Maybe 1 to 2 passes tops. But in terms of colder weather games where teams aren't used to it, going to colder weather, so we have Baltimore. The Chargers are going into Baltimore. They're not used to playing in the cold, right? All their home games, they're playing in t-shirts and tank tops. They have to get off the plane in the cold in Baltimore, and it's going to suck for them, basically. Philadelphia is used to playing in the cold, so that's a spot where you can take advantage of some of the Eagles players and feel a little bit more confident, right? But in general, faster tracks are where you want to target. In Dallas, on the turf field. In Houston, I believe, on the turf field, and that's a good game. So let's just try and build a lineup. I mean, we could start out, if I'm just going to say brutally honest, it's going to be between Luck and it's going to be between Watson. And honestly, you could take either of them, but let's pay up for Watson. on these smaller game slates, it's nice to kind of just pick um, the guys you trust, right? Because let other people mess around and maybe one guy will pop off. But I don't really know in the situation that you want to avoid the pristine game in Indianapolis and Houston, and then kind of run it back with some of these other ones a little bit. So we have Zeke. He's probably going to be the chalk when we go over to running back at 9K. Melvin Gordon at 7.7. Chris Carson the third at 6.8. Not a lot of running back in terms of elites. Not a lot of elites made the playoffs. Some of the ones that did are on bye this week, such as Todd Gurley, such as Kamara, if you still want to rank him as being in there as elite. But Ezekiel Elliott, one of the most elite of them all, right? We've been playing him all year because his passing game role, I mean, we could look at this. He didn't play last week, but his passing game role has pretty much been a constant, 8 to 10 targets over the past 2 months of the season, which is unreal. One of the only 6 players to be in the top 20% of his team in target share over the last 6 weeks of the year. Amari Cooper was also in that category as one of the top 8. So he was one of the 6 to be 23% or higher. Amari Cooper was at around 20%, one of the only 8 to be 20%. So definitely utilization's insane. He's got some actually touchdown regression coming his way. You see how much he touches the ball in the red zone, how much he touches the ball in general, and he hasn't had a rushing touchdown now in the past month of the season, and obviously he didn't play in week 17, so this is going to be now 6 weeks since he's had a last rushing touchdown once he suits up. Had one in the air during that span, but yeah, I mean, Zeke's the guy here, right? He's going up against Seattle. They allow only behind the Cardinals the most rush attempts per game. They just get gashed on the ground overall. Yards per attempt is the highest against Seattle. This is a situation where I want to attack Zeke in this spot on the fast track at home. And this is going to be a chalky build, right? And this is what I'm looking at right now on Wednesday night. Deshaun Watson and Ezekiel Elliott, that's going to be the chalky build to go off of, right? And again, I want to play the best players. I don't want to be sitting Zeke in this situation. And Zeke, this is the thing. Zeke's going to probably be coming in at 75% plus owned, even on a 4-game slate. And that's just because he's Ezekiel Elliott in the season that he's having. But again, there's merit to fading him there if you're putting in 10 lineups. Maybe you want to outweigh the field. I'm not sure I want to pick that situation against a rested Zeke. At home. Dallas coming off of a pretty exciting win against the Giants, and now they get Seattle, who is going to be a tough matchup for them. A very feisty team. Not a lot of teams want to face Seattle, but I do like Dallas in this spot. I like Zeke a ton. I mean, he's going to touch the ball 20 plus times, probably get 5 to 6 targets. His floor is just insane, right? Looking at some of these other running backs at 6K, do I want to touch Marlon Mack on the road against Houston? No. That's just my first reaction. We look at his game logs and just what he's been doing this year, and it's basically, will he go over 100 yards and get in the end zone for you? His passing game work is pretty slim. I mean, the last 2 weeks it's picked up targets-wise. He caught all 3 of his balls last week, but he caught all 3 of his balls for -1 yards. Helps that it's PPR, so you get some of those points. You get about 3 points. But I don't think I want to touch him against Houston, right? Not a situation that I'm really going to go for. I'll let people chase that good week he had last week. Tariq Cohen, he's a guy who's definitely interesting. I'm probably going to be playing a lot of tournaments in the playoffs, and Tariq Cohen's a guy that I want to have, right? He's going to be going up against Philadelphia, a little bit slower of linebackers. Tariq Cohen just an absolute freak in a game where I think in the playoffs they really want to utilize Tariq Cohen. Maybe they'll try and run clock with Jordan Howard. They've been doing that the past few weeks. But the fact that Cohen hasn't gone berserk in over a month of the season, not a lot of people are going to be on him, especially at this price range. He's the exact guy you want to have on your tournament teams because he's the exact guy who can catch 12 balls and get himself in the end zone, even if he only gets 80 yards on those 12 catches. That's pretty impressive. He's going to go over 20 points for you. At his price of $5,400, I don't hate it, right? And we want to go back to this. I mean, I know we have Melvin Gordon. He's going up against Baltimore. Terrible situation for him. He did get in the end zone against them last time. He saw a few targets, but he's not seeing, since he's been back, nearly as many targets as he has been. Maybe they're limiting him due to the injury a little bit. I'm not sure. But he's definitely a good play. I mean, obviously he's Melvin Gordon. His workload is insane. But now with Justin Jackson getting a little bit more work out there, and you mix in Austin Eckler, Gordon might not see an extra 3 to 5 touches a game. In the grand scheme of things, that's more important than on a micro slate, but we're trying to differentiate between a couple of people. So it's tough. So I want to put Cohen in there for now, get exposure to that last game. I just like having player minutes left, PMR left going into that last game. And especially with a guy like Cohen who can go berserk. We've seen him go berserk, I think, 2 or 3 times this year. Give me that in a tournament all day. We've seen him go over 30 points twice this year, gone over 24 times, got 18 one of those times. So yeah, Cohen's a guy that I think has a lot of good tournament upside. Chris Carson's another guy here. So Chris Carson's just going to get to work, right? And he's had 100-plus yards in 3 straight games. Absolute monster. Scored a touchdown now in 4 straight weeks and 6 out of his last 7. He's just a freak. The offense runs through him. This is basically his team now. Russell Wilson is like the facilitator, right? He'll get you down the field on some crazy plays, keep the play alive, maybe run a little bit. But Chris Carson's the guy who's pounding it, right? He's moving you down the field. He's keeping those drives alive. Carson Coming off a game against Arizona where he got 19 touches in a game that didn't even matter, and he put up 23 DK points. He's just been on an absolute tear. Everybody's going to want to own Carson. Now he goes on the road to Dallas, who actually does have success stopping the run, about middle of the pack, a little bit closer to better. Not sure I want to touch Carson in this situation, mainly because we're going to think game theory, right? We're going to think Carson, do I really want to touch him if he's going to be that highly owned when we have some other guys around here? Quickly, guys, a couple things I want to point out. Draft Dashboard, check it out if you're listening on audio. If you're watching this video, check out Draft Dashboard. Lots of tools in there. Just player, position optimizers. We have a good amount of people right now running through Draft Dashboard and having a lot of success with it. We give out free memberships here and there. So make sure you're keeping up with it. It's a cool spot. It's 30 days for $1. You get access to my player pool. I usually finalize that around Friday or Saturday. And you can make mass lineups. You could check on touches, see all these stats, reduce your research time, but also get some of your own biases out of the equation, right? So check that out, 30 days for $1 if you sign up through my link that I have below in the show notes as well as in the description. And then also Yahoo, guys, right? Yahoo, I have a sign up down below for you guys. And I mean, if you haven't been playing on Yahoo, you've been messing up. They've just been in this baller contest just giving away money, right? This week there's no management fees, meaning there's no rake, right? And that's absolutely incredible because there's rake on every other tournament on DraftKings and FanDuel, basically. But the last few weeks they've been doing negative 33% rake, which means that they're putting $250,000, a third more money into the prize pool. So instead of only the top 18% winning on DraftKings on Yahoo, it now becomes the top, I don't even know, top 33%, which obviously you're winning way more money. You don't have to place in the top 18% anymore, not even the top 25%. So make sure you get in there, check that out. There's a link below for you guys to sign up and get right into a game on Yahoo. Definitely a spot you have to be checking out. If you're watching this, you're probably into DraftKings based on the title, and I'm into DraftKings as well, but I've been playing a lot on Yahoo tournament-wise just because that's where it's plus EV, right? For those of you who don't know, rake is how much money you're paying, so 10% on everything you put in basically in head-to-heads on DraftKings, and DraftKings, that's how they profit, right? Yahoo, for promotional reasons, is putting in an extra $250K of their own money. So there's more money in the entire pool for people to win, which means more people are getting paid out because of the structure. So definitely check that out. It's well worth it. We want to look at some other guys now at the running back position. Gus Edwards, not a guy I really want to play. He's a poor man's Adrian Peterson, a younger Adrian Peterson, especially now that they got Kenneth Dixon getting the ball more out there. He's just, again, 100 yards and has to get you a touchdown or two to really win you a tournament. I'm not sure he's going to be doing that, and I'm not sure I really want to play him. He did have a good game last time against against the Chargers, but that good game resulted in, yes, he had 6.6 yards per attempt, and he did get 92 yards, and he had over 100 total yards with receiving, but he ended up with 11 points because he doesn't catch the ball and because he didn't get in the end zone to get the 100-yard bonus. A guy like Cohen can get you 11 points easily on 7 catches, right? And he doesn't have to do anything on the ground because he usually doesn't running the ball, and he doesn't even have to get in the end zone to do that. It's just a lot easier, more viable. And again, this is tournament, so if we were going to go play cash, I'm throwing in Melvin Gordon over in a Carson, guys like that. Like if we're playing cash, I'm going to be throwing in with Zeke, Melvin Gordon, and Chris Carson because that's where you're getting the absolute most usage, right? And that's probably still a good tournament strategy. I just want to separate myself a little bit, go with a guy like Tariq Cohen. So let's go back now. Let's get to wide receiver. So right now a build that we're having for the audio listeners is Deshaun Watson, Ezekiel Elliott, and we have Tariq Cohen. We have 48-16 remaining per player. Let's throw a defense in quick. So now we have 8 defenses on here. So it's really easy to differentiate yourself because even if you have a lineup like a lot of other people, you just pick a random defense, right? Not totally random, but let's just see some matchups, right? I mean, we got the cheapest defense is going to be Philadelphia on the road at 2,200. That's not a terrible spot, right? Obviously, the most expensive is the Bears because they have the best pass rush. We know that pass rush in fantasy equals fantasy points for defenses. Pressure, right? Sacks. Makes you force the ball for your quarterback. Interceptions, fumbles. All these things. We get Baltimore at home. It's just been an absolute great spot for Baltimore whenever they're at home. Really all season they've been great, but whenever they're at home. Let's see where we want to go here. So I don't really want to touch the Colts. And just for the fact of looking at this for the first time, not spending a ton of time on defense, don't really want to. We'll just plug in for this type of lineup the Bears, the most expensive defense. Maybe differentiate yourself a little bit there. Get a little correlation with Tariq Cohen, if any. And yeah, ways if you want to be really contrarian, play Jordan Howard over Tariq Cohen. Nobody really is going to want to play Jordan Howard, but he does have a good matchup at home. He's coming off of a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game, by far his best game in probably the past year and a half to 2 seasons. People might chase that, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be too enticed by Jordan Howard. But he is in a good spot, and he is cheaper. Some other guys we have down here, Darren Sproles, Kenneth Dixon, we've discussed them. Mike Davis, just a lot of guys down here who could go either way. Foreman's interesting at 3,500, only because they do want to get this kid some work. He just came off of being injured. Lamar Miller has had a little bit of injury problems the last few weeks. So you might see more Foreman, but you're basically throwing a dart there. For Lamar Miller did still have 17 carries in that last game, scoring a touchdown, catching a few balls. Miller's not in a bad situation either at home against Indianapolis. Just his past 2 times against Indianapolis, or his last time against Indianapolis, wasn't great. Time before that wasn't great. I mean, he's failed to crack 10 points in either matchup. Or if he failed to crack 5 points in the first matchup, 16 in the second, just averaging about 10 points a matchup. So not somewhere I want to go in tournaments or cash. Yeah, let's go over the wide receiver now. Now we have this build so far, and I'm just going to slot in Hopkins. I mean, it says that he's questionable. We'll see what he's doing, but you guys know on that 2-game slate we had for the Saturday and Sunday slate when the Texans played the Jets, I love DeAndre Hopkins. He's an absolute monster in primetime games. I think he's going to tear it up. Pairing him with Deshaun Watson, if you're going to be playing Watson, makes absolute all the sense in the world. Last week in a matchup where it seemed like he had no business doing anything, he usually doesn't get shut down by Jacksonville and Ramsey, but he doesn't go off. 12 catches, 16 targets, 47 yards, right? I mean, double-digit targets each of the last 5 weeks, averaging close to 10 targets, if not right around there on the season. Absolute monster, favorite wide receiver in the league for me. I think he's the best wide receiver, most versatile in the league, especially based on what he did with just bum quarterbacks in his career. Now he has Watson. Not a spot that I want to fade. And again, we said we wanted to target this game a little bit. That's where I want to target. Next up, Amari Cooper is the guy I'm going to plug in here. And this is, again, we're playing tournaments right now, and we're going to have to see what else we could fit if we want to go Cooper here, because we already do have a lot of expensive guys right now. Where can we find value? I'm not sure if we'll be able to build this lineup. But Cooper's a guy that I'm going to try target in these spots. Again, just came off an 11-target game. Didn't do anything the past 3 weeks of the season, but we know this guy's talent. Everybody's going to be off of him because, one, people are going to want to play Hopkins and Zeke. And it's going to be hard then to get up to Cooper, as we're seeing right now. We have 3 spots remaining to fill still, and we're only at 3,100 remaining per player. We already filled the defense, so it's going to be a little bit tougher. But Cooper's a guy who's just going to go berserk, or can go berserk and just win a tournament. Definitely a spot that I want to look at. Other guys that I'm looking at here, one of them is Jeffrey at $5,900. Came off a decent game, got in the end zone, but he still hasn't gone berserk in the past 2 weeks since that game against the Rams in primetime on Monday night. Jeffrey, I do like at his price point, do like him, not really scared about his matchup, and I do think Foles likes looking his way. T.Y. Hilton, $7,800, and I mean, this is a guy who can go boom or bust, right? We know he can do that, and I think he's more susceptible to going bust when he's on the road, but he is in a fast track in Houston. We do want to target this game, but I don't think I want to spend all the way up to T.Y. if I'm already getting Hopkins. Interesting play here could be Allen Robinson, right? Coming off of a game where he sat out, but a game before that he had a pretty good game. 8 targets, caught 6 of those balls for 85 yards against San Fran. Now he goes against Philadelphia, who can't guard anybody. He's priced at a good price at $5,600. I'm going to slot him in there right now. And then look at the rest of these guys. So Keenan Allen, $6,900 against Baltimore isn't enticing, but again, looking into it more, could be a good tournament play. And I'll come out with hopefully a final thoughts podcast and video, maybe Saturday morning, Saturday around sometime if I can get to it. Road trip we're finishing up Saturday, going from Texas with my girlfriend from her parents' house for New Year's in Austin. We're going to go all the way back up to State College, Pennsylvania, making 4 stops. Right now we're in Little Rock. We got Nashville tomorrow. It's a ton of fun, right? But just want to make sure I can get these videos out still for you guys. Taylor Gabriel, $4,500. Not sure I want to play 2 Bears, but Taylor Gabriel is a guy who does see targets, and at that cheap price point, it's really who falls in the end zone for you, right? We know Taylor Gabriel can see the targets, make those short catches, low A-dot targets. Not a bad play. Kiki Kute, so $4,000, and it seems like he's going to be playing. He's a full participant. He hasn't played in over a month of the season, right? He's just been out, and he had his best game of the year against Indianapolis when we saw out there Fuller was out. Will Fuller was out. Kiki Kute came in, 11 catches on 15 targets and 109 yards. Now you might say, oh, did that take away from Hopkins that game? It absolutely did not. That game went into overtime, so there's a little asterisk by it. But in that game, Hopkins still had 10 catches, 12 targets, 169 yards and a touchdown. They combined for over 60 points, or right around 60 points. Let's slide in Kute because he's dirt cheap, and honestly, he's probably going to end up being chalk, but he's dirt cheap in this spot, and we want to target this game. The proper way to run this game back would be to go and play a guy like Ebron, who's had an incredible year. You get to run it back with a guy in the Colts since you're stacking Watson, Hopkins, and Kute. You run it back with a guy in the Colts. In Eric Ebron, who's been an absolute stud, right? Found a way into the end zone again in Week 17. What is that, 14 touchdowns for this guy in the year. The Lions let him go, and he finally came alive. So good for Eric Ebron. It's a matter of fact now, can we fit this all, right? So we're going to have to come down off the Bears at $3,400. Let's see if we just put the Eagles in at the cheapest price. We get $3,200 in the flex. And I don't mind that, because I'm sure we can find one or two decent plays. You have Ryan Grant down here, and that's really it, honestly. It's pretty shallow down here. Ryan Grant sees a couple targets a game. So this is a situation where we're going to have to make a decision, right? We're going to have to make a decision to come off of somebody. Do we want to go lower at tight end? I kind of like having Ebron, but I also do like going up to Ertz. He's only 6,400 this week. We haven't spent much time on tight end, and he's going to come off of a week in which he busted, right? Tough matchup on the road in Chicago. Might want to avoid it, but I do like targeting Ebron in Houston. That's something that I want to try and continue to do, right? I want to try and fit this lineup in. Where do we want to come down? I want to stick with Watson if possible. If not, we can go to Luck, but we're only going to save 300 there. I want to stick with Zeke if possible, but going off of Zeke to any other running back is over a $1,300 savings at the bare minimum, but Zeke is just an absolute smash spot whenever he goes out there based on his role. In situations where we can come down now, our pick between Cohen and Robinson on that Bears team, which one's going to have a better game? I'd probably end up going Robinson since they've been giving Howard the ball a little bit more. Cohen is a great tournament play, though. That's the only thing that kind of scares me. But there's situations in which we could save some money if we come off of Cohen. You can come down to a Gus Edwards, which I said I don't really want to play him. You can come all the way down to a guy like Kenneth Dixon, who is seeing double-digit usage in terms of rushing the ball. I'm probably not going to be high on Darren Sproles. We've seen him catching a couple balls the past few weeks. But again, he's boomer bust. Does he find his way into the end zone or not? Not somebody I really want to rely on. Let's see if we put Darren Sproles into this type of lineup. We get $4,500 into the flex, and that's where you can put some decent players in there. You can fit a Golden Tate of the world in there. And at 4,200, Golden Tate in this situation is not a terrible play, honestly. Let's see instead if we kept Cohen in, who's a much better upside guy than a Darren Sproles, in my opinion, and we took out a guy like Robinson, and instead you put in a guy like Golden Tate, right? On the road, tougher matchup, a low A that guy who has been seeing the targets. And he's coming off a couple down weeks, so maybe now people go back to him. He's really only had one good week in Philadelphia. But then you get $4,600, and you can go to a couple of places there. You can go with the running back Jordan Howard if you want. I don't know if I'd go 2 running back set for Chicago. But yeah, you can go a couple of different ways, Taylor Gabriel. So this seems like a tough build because we're trying to stretch for salary, right? We're already at the cheapest tight end. You want to play Zeke, you want to play Watson and all these guys. You're playing the most expensive quarterback, running back, wide receiver if you go that route, which is pretty chalky now that I'm looking at it right off the bat. But a thing I'll mention is that I really do like Mitch Trubisky in this situation at home against Philadelphia. He's somebody that I'm going to try and build lineups around, come back to you guys and see what I think about that. Deshaun Watson, another guy that I like. So, we just built a lineup with Watson, Zeke, Cohen, with Hopkins, Golden Tate / Robinson, and Eric Ebron. All these different guys, right? Tight ends is pretty much a wasteland. Jarwin, I'm not going to chase those points with Zeke playing now. He dropped 40 points. That's not going to happen. I don't think he'll even get close, although he has had a really good, actually, last month of the season in terms of just getting some targets and some catches out there, especially last week. But, again, tight end's basically a wasteland. Not going to really stress on defense. But, looking at this right now, there's some plays on here, right? We haven't even talked about the Chargers, wide receivers, all those guys. Any of those guys can go off. It's basically like playing roulette. Anthony Miller, we know, can have decent games out there, although he's been kind of shut down a good amount over the past month. We have Michael Gallup, who we know it has the upside. He leads air yards, whichever stat you really believe in out there. Caught a 2-point conversion last week, and Michael Gallup's a good spot at 3,600. So all these guys are in play, of course. David Moore at 35. Cole Beasley at 35 is a very interesting play, although he doesn't see too much work as of late. He did last week with that amazing touchdown catch. Yeah, a lot of ways to go. Early on, I'm leaning on just this Indianapolis and Houston game to kind of stack it up. Maybe run it back with people from Philadelphia and Chicago, targeting the Chicago side of the ball to attack that Philadelphia defense that's going to be on the road. But yeah, guys, that's it. This is mainly like a breakdown / first look because this is my first time looking at it, but I'm trying to digest it. The advice for you guys is play the good players on these small slates, right? Play the good players. Put a guy in the flex that's $1,000 cheaper or $600 cheaper. Leave some salary on the table if it still gives you an optimal lineup. Don't be afraid to put wide receivers in the flex on these smaller game slates since there is so much variance. All it takes is really which wide receiver catches a touchdown in one of these random games and you're set, right? In cash games, play the guys who are going to get you the most usage, right? Zeke, Gordon, Carson. Squeeze them in and see what you can do from there. Maybe you can go Mac, maybe you can go Gus Edwards if you really want to go down, but I think Zeke, Gordon, Carson's a great build for cash. Squeeze them in, jam them all in. It's a short slate, trying to avoid, not trying to avoid, but trying to be cautious of some of these colder games where teams that aren't accustomed to the cold are going to be playing. The only one on this slate since we have 2 games in warm weather, and the Eagles and Chargers are used to being, or Eagles and Bears used to be playing in the cold. The only one on this slate is the Chargers and the Ravens. The Chargers aren't used to playing in the cold, especially in Baltimore, which is a tough place to play. It's a good opportunity to get leverage in that game. I just don't want to touch it. Indianapolis and Houston is going to be the highest owned game for many players. I think it's a good spot to target, and then run it back with that Chicago and Eagles game later on. I think that could be a sneaky shootout. Seattle and Dallas, I mean, it is what it is. We know that Seattle's going to run the ball. I believe we think Dallas with Zeke is going to run the ball. Maybe not as many plays as you'd hope. But again, players all over in that game that you could target. Russell Wilson's a sneaky quarterback to target. Going up against Dallas, and we know what he can do with his legs. He's only priced at $5,700, but this guy can go for 25 points like it's nothing really, and he could be the highest point quarterback when he's only going to end up being the 6th most expensive on the slate. So definitely a sneaky spot I'll leave you guys with. But thank you. I just wanted to come out, release this video, release this audio for you guys, give you something with these strategy videos to be more actionable, since this is the wild card round, make it relatable. Look at this slate. And I'm going to try and come back Saturday if I can. I don't know if I will be able to. Check out for the blog. Also check out Draft Dashboard, 30 days for $1, guys. You can get my access to my player pool. If I don't get out a video by the weekend, you can know kind of where my head's at. And Yahoo, you have to be getting on Yahoo when there are no fees right now. There's no management fees. There's no rake right now in the big tournament. It's a $20 buy-in, and you could win. This week, only $25K involved. First place is going to win $100K, and there's no rake, so we're going to see payouts on a good percentage of the field in that one, higher than anything on DraftKings, higher than anything on FanDuel, especially with that much money into the tournament, $500,000 in prizes. Check it out, guys. Sign up below. There's a lot of things. Join the Facebook group below as well. A lot of good things going on in there. I appreciate it. My name's Sal. This was a ton of fun. I'm going to enjoy this rest of this road trip. Watch some Netflix with my girlfriend or something. Have a great time. You guys have a great time. Best of luck. And yeah, let's knock one of these things down, guys. Let's win one of these goddamn things in the playoffs. Let's win some money. Somebody's going to be going home happy to start the new year. Happy New Year to everybody. My name's Sal. Peace.